Om Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We have been studying here Shankaracharya's commentary on the fourth sutra of Maharaj-2022 Sharira Shastra, popularly known as Brahma-Sutra, Chatussutri. And the context is as follows: that a desire, first, the understanding has been given by Shankaracharya that our life is based upon contradiction and our knowledge is wrong. And to get real knowledge, we have to go to the Upanishads. And for studying the Upanishads, Maharaj-2022 has provided this Shariraka Shastra, in which the sentences of the Upanishads have been systematically arranged so that we can comprehend them. And then in the first sutra we saw that a keen desire is necessary to be aroused within us. And the desire should be such that it will not stop till it has reached its goal. And the goal is Brahman. And Brahman, the word tells us that it is the greatest. And so we think of it as the Sarvajna Sarvashaktiman, creator, preserver and destroyer of the world, all pervading and beyond everything. And then, for that, we start whatever we can do and then come to Vedanta. And Vedas themselves tell us that the karma portion will not give you the final fulfillment of life, while the jnana portion will give. And then, in the second sutra, the Brahman is defined a little more, telling us that to know Brahman, we have to start from the known and go to unknown. And the known is the world as we experience it. Our experience of the world is our starting point, and we have to think of the situation when the world did not exist. Then only we can find its real nature. And when the world we see is continuously disintegrating, and yet how does it stand? So there also we are thinking of the source of the continuity of the world, and then when the world vanishes, where it will go, into what it will vanish. This is the way how to think of the reality of the world. So that was the second sutra, Janmadiyasya Yata. And then that is Sarvajna, because it has created the Shastras. But the second meaning of the third sutra told us that how to know that Brahman is only through the Shastras. Only through the Shastras we can know the Brahman. Shastra Yonitvat. And there, those who have gone through the Jaimini's Purvamimamsa, they feel that that is not correct. Because Vedas means action. And so anything which is not connected with the action is meaningless. Now it can be connected with the action in a way that it is telling about our real nature and the real nature of the devatas for whom we are doing yajna, then it can have some meaning. Or if you feel that the prakarana is different, that it is a different chapter, then we may think that it is teaching upasana, the mental form of work. In no other way can we think that it is any validity, because it is only telling about the thing as it exists. In reply to that, Vyasa has the fourth sutra, Tattu Samanvayat. And we have seen the meaning of this Tattu Samanvayat is that, but in the scriptures, in Vedas, what is the place of each sentence and how everything in the Vedas ultimately leads us to the knowledge of Brahman. When we know this, then only we read the Vedas correctly or have the correct meaning. And in that case, we'll find that it leads to the realization of Brahman. And then he gives the Vedanta sentences, several, which tell us that it is from Brahman only that the world has come out, and the real nature was one without a second, without any difference, inside, outside, anywhere. Now, after stating this, he is replying one by one to the objections raised. And the first objection was that, first thing is that only when we think like that, we get the proper meaning of the sentences. And when the meaning proper of the sentence is obtained, why we should imagine some other meaning? And the first point was that it is telling our nature and nature of the deities. But remember that the Vedanta is negating any difference between the doer and the done. And so it cannot be a part of karma. Directly it is negating the subject-object relationship which goes by the name of karma. Now the point was that if the nature of Brahman is already fixed, then can it be not known by pratyaksha or other pramanas? No. Though the nature is already fixed, but the nature is fixed in such a way that it is beyond our senses. And so, though the nature is fixed, it is not fixed in the way that we know things by our perception or inference, etc. And then, the central sentence of the Vedanta is Tattvam Asi. And there is no other source for knowing this Tattvam Asi. That thou art is the main central sentences of Vedanta. And that we cannot know by any other source. So, Vedanta is meant only to give us knowledge of Brahman. Up to this we had read. Now the next point was, Yattu heya upadaya rahitatvat upadesha anarthakyamiti na yesha doshaha heya upadaya shunya brahma atmana avagamat brahma atmata avagamat eva sarva klesha prahanat purushartha siddhe. That Vedanta does not tell us to reject anything or to get something new. Then what can it be its use? Now, this is not the criteria of whether it is useful or not. Because it is telling about Brahman, identity with Atman, which is not a thing to be accepted or which is not a thing to be rejected. Because that is our real nature. So our real nature is all-pervading Brahman. If Vedanta telling is this, then in this, where is the scope of rejecting anything? Nothing is to be rejected. In our real nature, and which is identical with Brahman, it does not ask us to accept something new or to reject something And so that cannot be a cause of calling it invalid, because the main thing is that, see what it does for us. Sarva klesha prana, the very possibility of all the problems of life goes away. Vedanta, because it teaches our own real nature, which is all-pervading and everything, so it removes the very possibility of any problem coming to life. And that is the goal of life. So the goal of life is achieved by removing all the problems of life. That is what Vedanta is doing to us. Then how it can be invalid? How does it require to prove that Vedanta should do some work for us? How should we think that Vedanta should make us accept something, reject something? Because it is fulfilling the greatest need of our life. No chance of any problem remains, and our life meets its final fulfillment. That is the function of Vedanta. Yes. Now, the second chance was that it is a complete different chapter for Upasana. I told you that Vedanta is not rejecting anything of the Vedas. So in Vedas we know there is a section on Upasanas. All Vedas are not for physical gross karma. There is a lot in Vedas, which is dealing with the mental upasana, very necessary for purification, for sharpening the mind. And so, that is a chapter we accept. Devata adi pratipadanasya tu swavakyagata upasanarthatva api na kashchit viroda. We are not in any quarrel with the Upasana chapter, because it tells us about the nature of the Devatas, and its own sentences are very direct about this Upasana. So Akyagata Upasana Arthatva api Devata adi pratipadanasya tu. For the sake of teaching Upasana, if it tells us about the nature of the deities, then it is very valid, that section. But there is a third section, and that is Vedanta. And there, natu tatha brahmana upasana vidhi sheshatvam sambhavati. So, not a part of gross karma, not a part of upasana teaching, upasana vidhi. Upasana is a karma, mental, and that is taught by the Vedas. We accept that. That is its own place. But Vedanta does not become a part of the Upasana Vidhi, or similar to Devatas. You do Upasana to Brahman. That is not the fact. Because it is telling about our oneness with Brahman. No scope of Upasana there. I can do meditation on a deity, not on Brahman. Because Brahman is my own real nature. Ekatve, heya upadaya shunyataya. So it does not leave me anything to be accepted or rejected. It tells me about my oneness. Kriya karakadi dvaita vijnana. And the duality between action and its auxiliaries, either for karma or for upasana. Vijnana, that means our consciousness about activity and its auxiliaries. Upamarda, it totally removes. Upapattehe. Upapatti means in this way it is understood, in this way it becomes logical to understand that not as a part of Upasana, only it teaches oneness. So it does not require to teach us something to be accepted or rejected. it teaches us that nothing is to be accepted or rejected, and it removes all the differences between the different actions and their auxiliaries. In this way only Vedanta has to be understood. Nahi ekatva vijnanena unmatitasya dvaita vijnanasya पुनः संभव अस्ति येन उपासना विधि शेषत्वं ब्रह्मणा प्रतिपद्येत. And that is the test of real knowledge. Once the real knowledge comes, it removes all the old wrong knowledge. Now the wrong knowledge involved in karma as well as in upasana is the difference between the subject and object. When this, against this, when the oneness is being taught and we realize that oneness, when we experientially know the oneness, ekatva vijnanena unmatitasya, it approves dvaita vijnanasya, any consciousness of duality. How can it come back? How can it come back? Let us understand by example. After samadhi, suppose we again see the dual, but we know very clearly because we have seen the reality that it is the reality appearing as these two. They are not different. So once the duality knowledge is uprooted by the knowledge of identity, how can that duality reappear? No chance. If there would have been a chance, then we could have said that Vedanta is a part of Upasana Vidhi. If the duality could have been accepted, then we could have said that Vedanta is a part of Upasana Vidhi, and for that it is teaching us Devata Gyan. But since the duality once removed never comes back, there is no need to even think that Vedanta is a part of Upasana Vidhi. यदि अपि अन्यत्र वेदवाक्यानां विधि संस्पर्शम अंतरेण प्रमाणत्वं न दृष्टं, तथापि आत्मविज्ञानस्य फलपर्यन्तत्वात् न तद् विषयस्य शास्त्रस्य प्रामाण्यं शक्यं प्रत्याख्यातुम्. We know and we accept that there is karma kanda in the Vedas. And in that karma kanda, if there are some sentences not dealing with karma, they are meaningless. That also we accept. But what makes a scripture valid? What result it yields. Karma is not the main thing. Because we want to go to heaven, so that gives some happiness, but it is temporary. By upasana, we may go to some devaloka, but that is also temporary. But Vedanta teaches us the reality and it gives the direct result. Phalaparyantatvat, Atma Vijnanasya, the experiential knowledge of our own real nature taught in the Vedanta yields its results. It does not require anything else to yield the result. When it tells that such and such your real nature and you can experience it, and when that experience is done, it has yielded its result. And so, the Shastra becomes valid. There is no way you can remove the validity of Vedanta Shastra. Vedanta Shastra is always valid because it is yielding the greatest result of our realization of our own real nature. And so, because it does not teach karma, because it does not teach upasana, because it does not do this or that, there no way connected with it, the validity of the scripture. The greatest validity of the scripture is that it produces the desired result. And what more can be desired than realizing our own real nature, which is free from every problem of the world? Now, we are applying certain things of the karma kanda for validity of Vedanta. Karma Kanda validity has been accepted in its own field. But we are trying to apply the Karma Kanda logic to Vedanta. Because there are so sentences, they meaning like that. So in Vedanta it will be like that. That is we are applying the inferential logic from Karma Kanda to Vedanta. But that is wrong. Nacha anumana gamyam shastra pramanyam. The validity of scriptures is itself not a matter of inference. It is very direct. When we pursue something directly, do we infer it? Do we require any inference? So the result of the Vedanta is so direct that there is no scope of inference in it. Yena anyatra drishtam nidarshanam apekshata. If there we have to infer it, then we have to go to something else. From there, find something and infer it on Vedanta. Anyatra drishtam, which we have seen somewhere else, the Karma Kanda, nidarshanam apekshata. We would have required to see that. We would have expected what the other scriptures tell. If Vedanta would have depended upon some inference, then we would have gone to some other Shastra to think about it. But Vedanta directly is giving us knowledge. And so, it is not a matter of inference at all. Tasmat, Siddham Brahmana Shastra Pramanakatvam. So it is proved that Brahman can be known only by the sentences of the Vedanta. Now, a different line of thinking is taken from here. Atra apare pratyavatishtante yadyapi shastra pramanakam brahma tathapi pratipatti vidhi vishayataya eva shastrena brahma samarpyate. This party accepts that they oppose us, he says, apare pratyavatishtante. They take an opposite stand, accepting half of it, that Vedanta is the means of knowing Brahman. We accept. But in what way? Pratipatti vidhi. Knowing itself is an action. Vedanta tells us you should realize Brahman. You should meditate. You should listen. You should apply your thinking. This is what Vedanta is telling us. So, is it not a mandate to do some action? This action may not be like Karma Kanda. This action may not be like Upasana Kanda. But to know something itself is a prompting for action. Pratipatti vidhi. Pratipatti means knowledge. And there is mandate about knowledge itself. And in that sense, Shastra, that is the elementary thinking of even the Vedantis, then that has to be cleared here. So, he takes up that stand, saying that some people are opposing this idea on the basis that they accept half, that Vedanta is the means of knowing Brahman. But in what way? By telling us to do certain things. To get that knowledge, pratipatti vidhi. To get that knowledge is their mandate. You must get that knowledge. You must listen. You must do this and you must do that. So though it is of a different from Karma Kanda, different from Upasana Kanda, but in itself, it teaches us some action. And in that way only, the Shastra exhausts itself to give us knowledge of Brahman. Shastra exhausts itself to give us knowledge of Brahman by prompting us to do certain things. And for that, he is again bringing an example from Karma Kanda. यथा यूप आहावनीय आदीनि अलौकिकानि अपि विधिशेषतया शास्त्रेण समर्प्यन्ते तद्वत्. He had told that Tattvamasi nobody else tells. So there are many things which we cannot know by pratyaksha or inference in this world. For example, in the Vedas Karma Kanda it is told you require a pillar. The pillar should be of this type. No, that is not by our pratyaksha anubhav. Pillar where to tie the animal. And the fire should be lighted in this particular way. That is also not available to pratyaksha or anuman. So, alaukikani api, they are beyond our experience. Vidhi sheshataya shastrena samarpante. But that also we have to go to scriptures to know about them. And they become part of karma. Similarly, Vedanta tells us something beyond this world we accept, beyond our senses we accept, but that tells in such a way that we must do something to get it. That is the main part. Kuta etat, how do we get this meaning? Pravritti nivritti prayojanatva shastrasya. So, Shastra is meant for goading us towards something and telling us don't go that way about certain matters. Now the terminology is changed a little. That the Vedas ask us to do something and forbidden from something. Now it says the Vedas guide us towards something and away from something. That much you must accept. That Vedanta is asking us to proceed in a line and not to proceed in this line. Proceed in the line in which we shall know Brahma. Don't proceed in the line where you will go away from that knowledge. This is the way Vedanta is proceeding. And then, referring again to Jaimini Sutra, Tathai Shastra Tatparya Vidaha Ahu Drashtoi Tasyartha Karma Avabodhanam. This is the, on Jaimini's Dharma Sutras, there is a commentary by Shavara Swami. And the sentence is taken from Shavara Swami. And Shavara Swami is telling us, Drushto itasya artha karma avadhanam. So, finally, the meaning of the Shastra is to make us aware of some karma. Now, some karma to get heaven is different, we accept. But there is some karma to know Brahman, that also is a karma. So, this subtle difference about different types of karma, I am the doer, this has to go, that is what he told in the beginning. But if we read that way, we feel that those who know what is the meaning of Shastra, Shastra Tatparya Vida, you have been telling that, see, finally it leads to what? So those who know where the Shastras finally lead to, those who know is reference to Shavara Swami here. Drishto itasyartha karma avabodhanam iti. So they also tell us on the commentary on Jaimini's first sutra by Shavara Swami is that it is very clear that karma will be, we will be made aware of some karma. Chodana iti kriyaya pravartakam vachanam. Chodana means Vedavakyas. What are Vedavakyas? Kriyaya pravartakam vachanam. Something asking us to do something. Tasya jnanam upadesha. And for that we require some knowledge. We require to know information about the yajna devatas and about the man performing yajna. So that much knowledge is there which is helpful for karma. Tad bhutanam kriya arthena samabdaya. So the sentences giving us knowledge also are accepted because it will give us something about action. Amnayasya kriya arthatvat anarthakya matadarthanam iticha. Then that very Gemini sentence comes back that the whole Vedas is meant for action. And if it does not have reference to action, it is meaningless. So it has come in a different way. That we accept that it is not like Karma Kanda or Upasana Kanda, but we are asked to know Brahman. And this knowing Brahman means going towards a direction, checking our other direction. And if we refer to Shankara Bhashya, we will find that it is also a karma, and without karma, Vedas are meaningless. अतः पुरुषम क्वचित विषय प्रवर्तयत अतः पुरुषम क्वचित विषय विशेषे प्रवर्तयत कुतश्चित विषय विशेषात् निवर्तयत च अर्थवत् शास्त्रम. So again come back to that Shastra becomes meaningful only by changing the tendency of the man towards something, away from something. That only makes the Shastra valid. May not be Shastra is telling do this particular work or that, but it is changing the tendency of man towards something and away from something about knowledge. And so it is then only Shastra becomes valid. Tat sheshataya cha anyadupayuktam. And as a part of that, all other sentences are useful. Tat samanyat Vedanta namapi tatha eva arthavattam sat. As these things apply to the Karma Kanda, so in a similar, again that inference has come. Because this applies to Karma Kanda, so same inference we use for Vedanta. And reference also we accept. Saticha vidhi paratve yatha swargadi kamasya agnotradi sadhanam vidhiyate evam amrutatva kamasya brahma jnanam vidhiyate iti yuktam. So see, we have solved the problem. That if you want to go to Swarga, then you have to do this yajna. And if you have to know, if you desire to get immortality, then you should know Brahman. So we are goaded towards doing something to know Brahman. That is how Vedanta works. It is different from Karma Kanda we accept. In what way? Karma Kanda asks us to do something to go to heaven. We don't want to go to heaven. We want to know Brahman. Then for that, no, we desire immortality. So if you desire Swarga, you do this yajna. If you desire immortality, you do something to know Brahman. Then you will get immortality. So we accept the difference and we come back to that it asks us to do something. Now, a detailed reply to this has to be given. Nanu, यह जिज्ञास्य वैलक्षण्यम उत्तम कर्मकांडे भव्य धर्म जिज्ञास्या यह तो भूतम नित्य निर्वृत्तम ब्रह्म जिज्ञासम इति. So remember what is to be known. There, karma is to be known, which we have to do in future and get its result. There, here we have to know something which already exists. Does it not make a big difference? Nitya Nirvurtam. Already permanently it is established. We don't have to create. We don't have to do yajna to create something. Already something which is eternal, which is already accomplished, that we have to know. So he was showing similarity, accepting some difference. But the answer is that the similarity collapses because the objects to be known are totally different types. In all your karma kanda, we have to know how to do karma. And that karma we will do in future. Here the moment we know what the Vedanta has taught us, we realize Brahman. We don't have keep anything for future. Already our nature is real. We don't have to create our real nature in future. We have to realize our real nature in future. And that realization is being given by Vedanta. So this is a big difference, please, that the object to be known is of very different category. And there, one more thing comes, that we have to do that karma to get that. We may do it in a different way, we may not do it. So it depends upon our effort. Here it does not depend upon our effort. If the realization of truth is realized, no effort. All effort is to know our own real nature. That is not an effort to get something. Tatra dharma jnana phalat anusthana apekshat vilakshanam brahma jnana phalam bhavitum arhati. So their expectation about knowledge of what is good work depends upon our doing also that good work. But here, the Brahma Jnana result is very different, very different. So, no expectation of some different fruit coming. So they are totally different. Na arati eva bhavitum. No, we don't think you can get something without doing something. Karya vidhi prayukta seva brahmana pratipadyamanatva. We have been telling you that Brahman is being told, no doubt, but that also depends upon our doing something. That point is being discussed. Whether our doing something, it depends upon, or our real nature does not depend upon anything in the world. Atma, now he gives the example. Those Vedanta Vakyas. Atma vai are drashtavya iti. Yajnavalkya telling Maitreyi, Atman must be realized. Ye Atma apata papma sa anveshtavya. That Atman which is free from sin has to be searched for. Another action. Atman should be realized, one action. Atman has to be searched for, another action. So Gyasitavya. One should desire to know it, another action. Atma ityeva upasita. You worship it as Atman, another action. Atmanam eva lokam upasita. Don't go in for Swarga and all that. Take Atman as your goal of life and do upasana. Brahma Veda Brahma eva bhavati. If you know Brahman, then you will become Brahman. So doing something or getting something may not be an outside fruit. But change of consciousness also depends upon your doing something. Ityadi Vidaneshu Satsu, when such sentences are from Vedanta, not from Karma Kanda. Ko asau atma imtad brahma iti akankshaya. Then the expectation comes, please tell us what is this Brahman? Please tell us what is my Atma. Then only I can know it. Then only I can feel the identity. Tat Swarupa Samarpanena Sarve Vedanta Upyukta. And that real nature of Brahman, real nature of Atman, in that only all Upanishads are exhausted. Nitya, Sarvajna, Sarvagata, Nitya Tokta, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava, Vijnanam, Anandam, Brahma iti evam adaya. So whatever Vedanta Vakyas are there telling us the nature of our real nature, that it is permanent, that it is all-knower, that it is all-pervading, that it is ever satisfied, that it does not change, that it is pure, that it is awakened, that it is free by nature, that is of the nature of knowledge, that it is the nature of bliss, that is Brahman. So all these sentences describe the nature of Brahman and ask us to know that. And so we have seen all these sentences involving some action. Very strong, it appears without analyzing. But as we analyze, we will find everything goes in a different direction. So this is the argument. Tat upasanacha shastra drishta adrishta moksha phalam bhavishyati iti. And by this upasana of that Brahman, of which nature is being described, then moksha which we do not see, but the Shastra says, Shastra drishta, that means it is unknown, it is not available to senses. All right, Shastra knows that, though we do not see. And that is the result to be given, moksha. Freedom is the result to be given. By that upasana only we will get that. A full logic system is being built up, apparent logic. Kartavya vidhi ananupraveshe, if there is nothing to be done, then vastu matra katane, but if there is nothing prompted to be done, only telling the nature of a thing, hana upadana asambhavat, again same back, that accepting or rejecting becomes impossible. Sapta Deepa Vasumati Raja Aso Gacchati Ityadi Vakyavat. So in the Vedas we will get some sentence like that. The earth has 7 islands. What it will give us? What does this knowledge give us? This king is going. What that will give us? Ityadi Vakyavat Vedanta Vakyanam Anarthakya Vyavasya. If Vedanta Vakyas do not make us enter some work, then it will be meaningless. Just like these sentences. Now, reply to this. Nanu, vastumatra kathane api, rajju ayam nayam sarpa ityado bhranti janita bhiti nivartanena arthavatvam drishtam. Take some ordinary sentence, not a Vedanta, and see whether telling the real nature does something or not. We feel in the semi-darkness we are seeing a snake and we are afraid. Either we want to run away or we want to bring sticks and hit it. At that point, somebody tells us, this is not a snake, it is a rope. So we have known the real nature and see what it has done. It has removed our fear. It has removed our unnecessary body into action. And we are happy, oh, it is a rope. So see, whether telling the real nature itself gives the result or not, we don't have to enter any action for that. Ityadu Bhranti Janita Bhiti. Our fear was due to our delusion. that we are thinking it is a snake. Nivartanena, that delusion has gone and it has become meaningful. Tata iapi. So in this Vedanta also, samsari atma vastu kathanena, that our real nature is not subject to transmigration. By telling this, a very big worry, very big anartha, very big problems are gone. Sansarito bhranti nivartanena arthavattam cha. We are all deluded into thinking, oh, if you do like this, we will go to hell. If you do like this, we will become animals. If you go like this, we will go to Narak. How much fear we have on that account? So don't do that. Go to Sarga. But by knowing our real nature, this delusion itself vanishes. We are no more to be afraid of anything. So it is meaningful. Meaningful because it produces a result. That was the statement. And for producing a result, it does not ask us to do something. The opponent said that, okay, it will produce a result if you do something. Here he gives, and so many examples are given. Now he gives a simple example from our day-to-day life. We are afraid it is snake, and then so many things we start doing, and different types, running away, bringing a stick to hit it, collecting more people to deal with it, bringing some nose to catch that snake. And somebody is like, it's not a snake, it's a rope. So the beautiful, just telling our real nature, if it removes all the nonsensical effort due to delusion, then is it not a great thing? Now, practical life. Many people, important things are there. What many people have heard this, that we are Brahman. Has it produced a result? Your example that this is not a snake has produced a result. But don't apply that to Vedanta. Vedanta is telling you are Brahman. I have heard that, but it has not produced any result. ह्यात एतत् एवं यदि रज्जु स्वरूप श्रवणे इव सर्प भ्रांति संसारित्व भ्रांति ब्रह्म स्वरूप श्रवण मात्रेण निवर्तेत. What you say we could have accepted if just by telling this is not a snake, it is rope. We only heard the nature of real nature of rope, and our delusion about Sarpa has gone. Like that, by only listening about Brahma's nature, if our Bhranti, you are calling it Bhranti, but if our transmigratory life would have vanished, then we would have accepted your thing. But we do not see this in life. So, difficulty from practical life is given. Unless we do something. Oh, I remember here one funny incident. In Rishikesh, near our Kutia, there is a Vivekashram. And in the annual function, so many Mahantas are invited. Now, behind our Kutia near, there was a Kriya Yoga show. That man was a Vedanta sannyasi, but he was running a Kriya Yoga show. Now, 2-3 sannyasis spoke, Vedantis. And in everybody's speech, this is compulsory, that world is unreal. Then that man's turn came. And he said, hearing world is unreal, my ears are getting troubled. Unless you do something, what will happen to you? That was his statement. And after that was my speech. I said, if hearing world is unreal, your ears are being troubled, why have you taken sannyas? Why have you done Virja home, where it is told, I don't want anything? And you say that by doing something, you get a finite result that you should not forget. So, coming back again and again to that, but fact of life is that by listening to Vedanta, nothing is happening. That is because your mind is not pure. And that is because Atha was given. That Vedanta has a adhikari. Vedanta is useful only for the fit person. When something he has already started doing, he has understood that he is in error. And to remove that, to change the course of his life, he has already started doing. And in continuation with that, if he comes to Vedanta, he understands, not otherwise. If his actions depend upon ignorance, and in theory, he talks of Vedanta, that will not function. So find out where the problem is. Don't shift the problem. The argument goes on, Natu nivartate, Shruta Brahmana api yatha purvam, Sukha Dukkha adi sansari dharma darshanat. Only by hearing our real nature, our life does not change. Many people have heard about Brahman, but the pleasure and pain and all other qualities of the transmigratory life is still going on. Shrotavya mantavya nididasatavya iti cha shravana uttara kalayo manana nididasayo vididarshana. Only by hearing nothing is happened. So we have seen that in the statement which you have made there itself, Atman should be realized how? We must hear, you must think, you must meditate. So, had the hearing only would have removed our problems, then why you should think and you should meditate? So it means something has to be done in Vedanta. So enter some settled field now. Huh? So that is a vidhi. So only hearing has not removed our problems. Tasmat Pratipatti Vidhi Vishayatya Eva Shastra Pramanakam Brahma Abhipugantavyam Iti. So our statement that Vedanta is valid because it asks us to do something to get that knowledge. Pratipatti Vidhi Vishaya. It is about our doing something to get that knowledge. Then Vedanta is valid. Not only here. Atra avidiyate. Now a detailed reply to these arguments follow. No. First reply is no. Your line of thinking itself is wrong. Why? Karma, Brahma, Vidya, Phalayo, Ilakshanya. Their first point was taken that jigyasas are different. Now you are telling that the fruits are of a different type. Karma, Brahma Vidya. Karma Vidya, Brahma Vidya. Phalayo, Vailakshanya. They are of different types, different characteristics. Karma Vidya result, Brahma Vidya result are of different types. So don't compare like this. Shariram, watch. I think we should, a few minutes are left, but this is the important topic now. We should take it on the next Wednesday. So, we have heard all the objections possible. And now we start the reply by Shankaracharya to every objection depending upon the Vyasa Sutra Tattu Samandvayat. If we read Vedanta, all the Vedas in such a way that where it ultimately leads us to, we'll find the harmony, we'll find the meaning that it is teaching us the knowledge. So that portion we'll take it up. On the next Wednesday, 20th January, we meet at 5:30 and take up that talk. Om Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.